This is exactly right.
If audiobooks are your thing, or if you've been meaning to listen to more of them, you should check out a podcast called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, hosted by Cal Penn.
Each episode spotlights standout audiobooks on Audible across all kinds of genres. Sci-fi, comedy, romance, thrillers, and more, with Cal talking to guests who help break down what makes each story worth listening to.
It's a fun, easy way to discover your next great audiobook.
Check out Earsay on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Goodbye.
The best time to think about home security is before you need it.
That's exactly why there's Simply Safe.
Traditional home security only alerts you after a break-in has already happened, and that's too late. Simply Safe is changing that.
Simply Safe's U.S.-based live agents identify threats on your property and help deter them so intruders never get to your house.
The system is customizable so you can build one that fits your home and your specific needs.
The 24/7 professional monitoring is effective and affordable and won't lock you into a long-term contract.
I think that's what's so scary for so many people is that long-term contract. And like, what if it turns out you don't like it or need it, but they don't have that because they know you'll like it and you'll know that you need it and feel so much safer when you have it. Like at this point in my life, I would never go without a security system on my house. I just feel safer with actually having Simply Safe around.
There's a whole staff at Simply Safe that's waiting to talk to you and help you out. Right now, you can get 50% off your new system by visiting simplysafe.com/MFM.
That's half off at simplysafe.com/MFM.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Goodbye.
Get into the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event and get away with a deal so right, it almost feels wrong.
Right now, you can get great deals on Hyundai's most popular models,
including the adventure-ready SUVs like the Hyundai Santa Fe or Santa Fe Hybrid and the Tucson or Tucson Hybrid.
Plus, there's the bold and stylish Elantra loaded with the latest tech.
Or go all-electric with the Ioniq 5 or the Ioniq 9.
So get down to your local Hyundai dealer and get away with a deal you'll love during the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event.
Visit HyundaiUSA.com for details.
Goodbye.
Hello. And welcome
to My Favorite Murder,
the podcast.
It sure is.
For this new America.
It sure isn't.
I mean,
but we'll do our best.
Is this the old America that we read so much about?
I mean,
what the fuck? What the fuck?
To just start it off, like, nothing's ever going to be the same again.
No.
It's true. No. And it's amazing and good.
Well, yeah, there's definitely so many good parts about it.
Yeah.
Like, we keep being shown the bad parts, but the good thing is then we're also, if you're looking correctly, you're also being shown the good parts.
That's right.
There is progress being made in we were just talking about, Jordan and I were just talking about how in the, say, past 48 hours, so much has changed. So many things have happened. So much information has come over the wire. I get all my information through an old teletype.
Or maybe you're accidentally just watching The Wire this whole time instead of the news.
I love The Wire. Stringer Bell, save me. That's why it's so stressful. But no, there's just, I mean, guys, I think you know better than anybody that we don't know how to talk about socio-political, race-relational things. We didn't go to college, as we've said multiple times.
I mean, that's number one.
I mean, we're both educated by social media, as everybody is these days. We're all reading the same articles. We're all looking at the same reactions.
Yeah.
So this will be more of a, we're just kind of repeat back a lot of things that you've probably already heard, but you know,
we're here as two acknowledged, privileged white women who want to support and are doing everything we can and acknowledge that we don't know shit, and we're doing our best to know shit. And because so many of our listeners, thank fucking God, want to know shit too.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation with you guys about it.
Yeah. Or maybe even what a lot of us are learning is that it's not a conversation. We need to zip it and listen to people who we haven't been listening to all of our lives and start actually acknowledging the only way to get rid of these white blind spots that a lot of us have, or this complete ignorance of other people's experience, is to stop talking about ourselves and putting ourselves in the center of everything, and instead step back and be the observer where you can actually learn. And I think that whole thing that happened when everyone put up their black square and everyone, you know, the intent behind that, I believe there was a good intention of stop talking about your dumb shit and pay attention to this incredibly important movement that's actually exploding in the most real and unbelievable way right in front of us. But then that got turned into it's an excuse for white people to not have to participate in this discomfort. And so I think there was a nice kind of fix on that, because I think a lot of people were like, got it. That's not the way. You actually have to keep participating, and you have to keep listening. Yeah. And what you're doing is just being asked to, instead of giving your opinion or being like, I'm so sad and I'm so upset. Who gives a shit? Yeah. If you're sad or upset, let's hear from the people that this actually really affects on a day-to-day basis. Let's hear from the people who are constantly in danger because law enforcement is violent with Black people and people of color.
You know what it felt like to me was like we're all on a boat, okay, and the white people are running from side to side on the boat to be like, don't tip, don't tip. We have to run to this side. We have to run to that side. We're making the boat tip on that side. The people of color are in the middle of the boat being like, can you guys all calm the fuck down and just stand in the middle with us and stand here with us and stop fucking tipping the boat unintentionally. But you're causing the boat to tip. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. But I think what is impressive is before what would have taken 4 years for the running side to side to stop, and a lot of arguing of like, well, here's some dumb political stance that actually isn't related and doesn't make sense. Right. Instead of any of that, there's just people are learning this very quick, like, oops, that was a mistake. And the discomfort, I think this is maybe for me personally, what I've learned in the last 4 years of doing this podcast, which is basically the theme of this podcast is mistakes in many ways.
Oops. Sorry about that.
Right. But what I've learned is the pain of your mistake and the shame you feel because you made a mistake and you got called out as privileged, racist, blind spotted, whatever it is. You should say thank you for that pain, because it is nothing compared to the pain of somebody watching a family member get shot in front of them because they didn't do the right thing, or they've just basically been profiled. It's nothing compared to the pain of being in constant fear of your life. It is just an ego personal thing that you can absolutely get over easily. Yeah. And all you have to do is say, sorry, and I'm going to do better. The end. Yeah. And stop talking about yourself. That's all. As we talk about ourselves for 7 minutes straight.
Every tweet I've put up that hasn't just been a retweet of someone smarter than me, who knows more than me, I've deleted, because I don't even realize how fucking self-centered it sounds, even when I'm like, fuck this and fuck that, and I'm and here's what I think. It's like, you don't realize how much it is about you when you're blabbing your mouth until you fucking see it, and you're like, shut up. I don't get a fucking voice in this. I get to support other voices.
Well, yeah, and the whole point of social media is blabbing your mouth and making it about ourselves. But people are making the switch. People are turning it around. I think what I'm seeing is people getting that in a real way and being like, oh, right. No one wants to hear my dumb joke right now. Or sometimes they do. I mean, there's people being very funny and on topic in my timeline and Twitter. Well, people I love.
The comedic voice is so necessary, and you have funny, biting things to say that advance the narrative. But I think people like me, who's just like, I hate Jimmy Fallon. It's like, that's not fucking helping anyone.
It's not going to help. Well, and also I think that's like kind of the comforting, easy thing where you're like, oh, I'm going to stand back and kind of like cancel people. That'll do it. And it's like, everyone's kind of learning, essentially, if you can't put your body out next to people of color and black people who are protesting, if that's not something you can do, then you have to give money. It's pretty much, that's it.
Yep.
You also have to stake your claim because, as some brilliant person put it in the 1 millionth tweet that I've read over the past, 4 days, whatever.
Another really great thing that people who can't give money, who can't and won't protest for whatever reason, is to call and tweet at and just barrage the people who are, quote unquote, in charge of making these legislations, of, creating these laws that fucking just completely discount people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and disadvantaged because of 150 years of, racism. And so you can do something.
This really smart person said it's no longer Democrats versus Republicans. It's the only thing it is now is racist against anti-racist people. Yeah. And you have to declare your side, because with white people it could be anything. And so basically you have to just put up or shut up. Yeah. Which I think is that is incredibly fascinating. And I also think that the movement, the action people are taking that is peaceful, quiet, peaceful protesting, that at some point the police are just like, and now we're going to tear gas you, is proving everyone's point. And it's a point that most white people never had to acknowledge, talk about, or think about for up until this moment in history. At least in my generation. You would hear about it, talk about it. We would, every once in a while, people would tweet at us of you can't, talking about jail term reform, or talking about this, talking about that, where I honestly didn't understand, where I'd be like, but we want serial killers to rot in jail. That's what we're thinking. And they're just like, no, this overall,
right. The privatization of prisons means that the more people you imprison, the more lucrative your fucking business is. And so, and because of this systemic racism throughout our country, the people who are going to prison are the people who are less, who have more disadvantages with money, with education, and they're going to prison. And so it's a system that's put in, that is, racist because our country was built on the fucking backs of black people.
Yep.
And it's been, you can't take one piece out of it. It's like fucking Jenga. You can't take one piece out without the rest of it falling. So the people who make money on fucking private prisons are not going to be okay with, with a reform, with police reform. They're not going to be okay with affordable housing. They're not going, fucking not 40 years ago, they're not going to be okay with schools being unsegregated. It's people who are making so much fucking money. It's people who are grabbing money, who don't fucking need any more money.
Well, also somebody made that really good point too. What's so exciting about this period of time, this presence of it, where there's many good intentioned people, who don't suffer at the hands of police brutality. And so it has been easy for us to go, I don't know if it's that important. I don't know. It seems like, and then just basically now that we all walk around with a video recorder in our hand, that is our phone. Thank God. And there are people, we've all seen it on social media, people recording a person down on the ground with their hands, zip tied behind their back. They're cross-legged, which is the position. That's all a cop needs to do, is put you down like that, and you can't move or do anything. My point is that then someone goes up and kicks someone in the face when they're already down. And so that's the kind of thing where for all the people that would be very it's so uncomfortable to go, oh, but I these people mean well and we need the police force and all these things. All that fucking shit gets washed away when you see how people are treated when the cops don't like them.
Because
it's shocking.
Because they don't get to say anymore, well, just don't resist arrest. They don't get to say that anymore because it is not, you and I, we cannot resist arrest.
George Floyd did not resist arrest. He was peaceful the entire time. They have 2 angles on his arrest.
That's right.
2 angles on his arrest. He did everything the cops said.
Because Rodney King was fucking crawling away, and we saw that fucking, God. 25 years ago.
I mean, yeah.
He was not resisting arrest, but now it's up in your face. It's on, social media, and we're the younger generation who won't deny it. And it's almost like, I fucking hate saying this, but like the fact that we're all on lockdown right now and in this global pandemic, and, it's this perfect storm of people who get perfect storm of like, it's almost like we've been priming for the past 2.5 months to come together and get out there and fucking and show and protest.
Well, and that's what that guy, so if you live in Los Angeles, you probably saw this clip or somebody retweeted it. Mm-hmm. It's incredible because there was, hundreds of peaceful, I would dare say silent protesters standing outside Mayor Eric Garcetti's house.
Oh my God.
It was one of the most mind-blowing visuals I've seen in a while, because you couldn't go, oh, that's so scary, or oh, they're bad or whatever. It was people literally standing and not moving and not talking, just standing in front of the mayor's house like, so you have to do something.
And it was a huge crowd of people.
It was really
they were
big,
being
and it's
so quiet.
And it's a super rich area of LA. And then a reporter goes and finds a neighbor. So it's this white guy standing there with a mask on.
Total stepdad, looking like normal guy.
And the second the clip starts, I get mad because I'm like, of course you find this guy that's going to start complaining how he can't pull out of his driveway.
Fox News too. So you're like, oh, you're going to find the most fucking right.
Yeah, well, a Fox News affiliate. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, as opposed to the network. Yeah.
Right.
But she says, what do you think about all these people and what they're trying to, the way she asked the question, I didn't love.
Yeah.
This man then, in the plainest, clearest way, explains why it's happening and basically says, when you steal the land from the native people and build a country on the backs of black people and take away all their freedom and abuse them and don't give them equal rights, and then you have a president who lets this, I mean, he basically lays it out clearly and quickly.
Yes.
In this way where I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
That's when you start to see that's the majority.
Yeah.
That's your average person on the street.
Yeah.
That we're all kind of watching these same videos and going, holy fucking shit, it can't be this way anymore. I think. I mean, that's what I like to think.
I mean, I love that. It's so true. But for every one of those I see when I see white people rioting, spray painting, fucking stealing shit, I get my blood boils. That's not,
sure.
We're not there to do that. We're there to support people of color, stand behind them, stand in front of them when they are being attacked by the fucking riot police.
Yeah.
We're support.
Yes.
We're support.
Right. There's many people who theorize that's the idea. They're agent provocateurs. They're there to actually do it, to make it worse. And everyone, I hope, saw that video of those fucking girls that were spray painting in front of the Starbucks at the farmer's market.
That was farmer's market. Yeah.
Yeah. And that woman walks up and is like, what the hell are you doing? Give me that. And then they bitch at her. And I was like, those two girls are not the kind of people I know that go to protest. They are something else. Because why the fuck are you doing that? Like, what are you doing? And then if someone comes up and goes, don't do that, you'd go, oh, you would if you were of a certain mindset, you'd say sorry. And they were just like, basically, fuck you.
This isn't mass destruction. This is, there's a fucking reason that you should be there. And there are things you can do to be supportive. The same thing happened in the fucking 60s and the 70s with the Vietnam protests. They'd sent that fucking FBI and CIA would send in fucking, undercover agents to fuck shit up that gave them an excuse to kill people at fucking Kent State, to fucking fire rubber bullets and to, and to make the, middle conservative people hate what they saw and hate us.
Because it's about optics. But what I think is fascinating is it's very difficult now to argue with these optics when there are 50, basically they look like stormtroopers standing at the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, that visual is just like this. We are now in the dystopian America that everyone's been holding their breath about. And that's why all of this is, I mean, look, and we're just, again, we're just talking about this off social media. We're just talking about this as it comes in and as we're reacting to it. But what's amazing is this kind of, you can feel the slow collection of, we're not letting this happen here. We can't let this happen here. And the rest of the world is watching us and supporting it. I mean, did that fucking protest in France where they just piled up all those free mopeds and lit them on fire? The fucking scooters, the electric scooters, you're just like, hell yes. Like people all over the world agree with these protesters, agree with this action, agree that this whole situation and the administration that is basically has been causing it for 4 years, it has to change.
It's crazy how 4 years ago we put out a podcast right after that motherfucking piece of shit got elected somehow. And we're scared and we're afraid of what was going to happen. And suddenly it's all happening at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is fucking history. It's going to change from here.
Yes. I had a long conversation with my therapist this morning, as I do many days a week. And this is my favorite thing that she said. Because I was telling her, I was like, we're so nervous to even talk about this because we don't want to be wrong. And we don't want to say some fucking ignorant thing.
You and I?
We've done, like that we've done it in the past. Yeah. Or you say something where you're just like, oh, I think I'm just sharing my thoughts. And then 50 people text you of like, and then you're just like, my first reaction is always like, but I'm not wrong. Right. And you can't say that I'm that person.
Or my intentions are this, or my intentions are that.
She said this, which I love. Do not fear being wrong, because regret wakes you up to what you're not doing right, which means you have a mind that can notice things, which means you have a mind that can change and grow.
Amazing.
And that's the key. So that momentary, I'm not the person I want to be, or I'm dumber than I thought I was, or I'm more racist than I thought I was.
Yeah.
You can track that and then do something about it. There are people who cannot, and that's why they can't discuss it. There are people, when you experience the rage of the people who are saying, how dare you support Black Lives Matter? That's a person who is so afraid. They're so afraid. They don't know how they can belong in this world, and they can't change. And I think that's kind of what a lot of those side of people are saying is, how dare you make me question myself? How dare you make me take responsibility for what I've been doing and getting and benefiting from? It's not.
Well, it's the whole argument.
Surprising.
It's that whole argument of like, well, I feel like we're starting to wake up of like people who, with the whole thing of white privilege isn't directed at people who grew up without any hardships in their lives. It's not that. It's people, it's us understanding that although there were hardships in our lives, the color of our skin was never one of them. And it always is that for people of color. And I think we're finally waking up to that and understanding, like even me being Jewish, it's like, but you can't tell by looking at me. So I have a fucking privilege, And
that somebody wrote this really amazing thing that was being a racist doesn't translate to anger and hatred and active. So a lot of people go, I'm not racist, because that they're thinking of those horrible people in the South when the schools were getting integrated and they were screaming at children, that little girl that was walking in by herself to that school. And they're going, I'm not that person. Right. But so you're not actively enraged at people of color. It doesn't mean you're not racist, because what that means is that you have blind spots and issues and things where you don't understand the real world in the way that other people do. And the thing we're talking about at the moment, because the thing that can't continue is black people being killed by the police because the police can kill them without any repercussions. That's all.
Right.
That's what has to change. And basically, like, the authorities are going, not only will we not change it, we're going to try to kill more of you.
Totally.
And that's why people are standing up and going, no, not anymore. We can't. We all watched Ferguson, held our breath, and hoped that small group of mostly black protesters were going to get it done for themselves, because no one wanted to get their hands dirty and no one wanted to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Of course. but we got to. And now that I think almost like there's something about the pandemic that kind of cracked through.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of seeing this thing where it's just like, oh yeah, this matters. And how we're connected to each other matters.
Yeah.
And whether or not people live or die fucking counts to me and matters.
Yeah.
And Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, everyone.
Black Lives Matter.
Should we say, so we're going to put up a bunch of media recommendations on the Exactly Right blog. So go to exactlyright.com if you want to get some podcast recommendations, book recommendations, film, TV, things that you can read to and support and try to understand, a little better what your deeply rooted, secret to you even racist tendencies are. And it's really important to look at yourself like that and to understand what you're doing wrong so that you can try to be an ally.
Yeah. And, one of the most kind of like, I remember this so well. When that crazy fucking thing happened on our Facebook page and we were just like, what? And we basically had to shut it down because it was like, there was a racist flare up and it was so crazy and we didn't really even know it was happening. Mm-hmm. And when I did this very stupid thing of actually trying to argue with people on Twitter for 10 minutes where it's like, no, we wouldn't do that. And we're not like that. And we're your allies. And this young girl, I'm assuming it was the person who was in their picture, me going, we're not like this. We're your allies. And this young woman, I believe she was a young woman of color, who wrote back and said, you don't get to say you're our allies. We decide.
Right.
And that's what made me A, stop arguing, and B, go, oh shit, I'm actually telling people stuff like this and I don't know these details.
Yeah.
I should know that. I should know this. If I don't speak the language, I can't be out here telling people how it is because I don't fucking know.
I'm this and I'm that. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, nobody wants to think they're that person. Too fucking bad. Just accept it. And now the work is, how do we change it?
There's so many lessons that to be learned right now if we, including you and I and everyone who's listening, open their fucking minds and ears and Twitter feed and learn. We can all learn right now and become better fucking people.
Yeah. And before
better
you do that,
people to help the cause. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then in the meantime, if you can give money. Mm-hmm. And if not, I've retweeted several and I know there's so many guides out there for people who, if you can't protest, here's a list of things you can do. If you don't have money, here's a list of things you can do. I think it's so exciting that those kinds of lists are being made for people.
Mm-hmm. The shop Black owned, bookstores, restaurants, shit in your area where you can support Black owned businesses and people of color owned businesses is really important.
Yeah, any kind of frustration or, whatever you're feeling, you don't have to fold in on yourself and collapse because you're having negative feelings.
Right.
You take those negative feelings, you interpret them as energy that needs to be put towards someone who needs your help and then go help.
And you know why? Because fucking capitalism has been...
Okay. Here we go.
Oh, shit. Sorry. All I'm saying is let's weaponize capitalism for people of color instead of against them, which it's been since capitalism existed in this fucking country. So you can you put your money in places that can support those people who capitalism doesn't fucking work for.
Yeah.
If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook or just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about.
It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audio Book Club, hosted by Cal Penn.
Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now.
If you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start.
Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Goodbye. The best time to think about home security is before you need it.
That's exactly why there's Simply Safe.
Traditional home security only alerts you after a break-in has already happened, and that's too late. Simply Safe is changing that.
Simply Safe's US-based live agents identify threats on your property and help deter them so intruders never get to your house.
The system is customizable so you can build one that fits your home and your specific needs.
The 24/7 professional monitoring is effective and affordable and won't lock you into a long-term contract.
I think that's what's so scary for so many people is that long-term contract. And like, what if it turns out you don't like it or need it, but they don't have that because they know you'll like it and you'll know that you need it and feel so much safer when you have it. Like at this point in my life, I would never go without a security system on my house. I just feel safer with actually having Simply Safe around.
There's a whole staff at Simply Safe that's waiting to talk to you and help you out. Right now, you can get 50% off your new system by visiting simplysafe.com/MFM.
That's half off at simplysafe.com/MFM.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Goodbye. Chief Caribbean's Jet Set July sale is here.
Right now, save $200 on vacation packages of 4 nights or more with promo code 200BEACH.
Whether you're dreaming of Cancun, Jamaica, or the Dominican Republic, your next vacay just got more affordable.
Don't let summer pass you by without the beach.
Use promo code 200BEACH and get more sand for your dollar.
Head to cheapcaribbean.com today to book your beach vacay.
Goodbye.
So, today I'm going to tell you about a really powerful, amazing, badass woman named Ida B. Wells.
Great.
She was an investigative journalist, an educator, and one of the founders of the NAACP.
Nice.
And she's incredible. I got a lot of information from a bunch of different really great podcasts. And so write these down. One's called A Brave Space with Dr. Meeks. That's Meeks. A podcast called Black History in 2 Minutes, hosted by Henry Louis Gates Jr. A podcast called The Humanity Archive by Jermaine Fowler, and a podcast called This is Karen Hunter. It's a really great podcast. And in this episode about Ida B. Wells, she talks to Dr. Greg Carr, and it's just a really great listen.
Awesome. Jermaine Fowler is a really funny stand-up comic also.
Oh, okay. It's a good podcast. And then I got articles from the Chicago Tribune, an essay in the Washington Post by Keisha N. Blaine. There's a really great quick video on YouTube. It's like the TED Talks educator. So it's TED Ed, and it's animated and it's made by Christina M. Greer. And it's great. It's great to show to kids. I really love it. An article on biography.com and Wikipedia, of course. And there's just tons of articles and tons of books about Ida B. Wells that go into her incredible life way better than I'm about to do. But let's start.
Okay.
So
the given is there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much great stuff out there.
Right.
That's way better than everything we're about to do.
Exactly. So here's
And
a little.
I think everyone knows that.
Here's a little taste, and then go dive deep in.
And then go. This is the Cliff's Notes.
This is the Cliff Notes podcast, sponsored by Cliff Notes.
Oh, remember Cliff's Notes?
Nope, never even tried to use those. That's
really?
how little I cared about homework. I wouldn't even do the Cliff Notes.
I remember people passing Cliff's Notes. If you're young, Cliff's Notes were basically, you were supposed to read Silas Marner, but you could get a real thin book and just read
Yellow. It was
the
all-
Cliff's Notes. Yeah, it's yellow with the black. It almost looked like police line do not cross tape.
Yeah.
And it basically just summed up the book and its themes and all the stuff that you were going to get asked about.
Because we didn't have the
class.
internet to look at.
there was
It's like
no
Wikipedia.
internet.
I feel like Wikipedia is the Cliff Notes of the
It's
internet
true.
age, right?
Yes.
Shit.
Mhm.
Okay, so
But
this is a
it's
Cliff
also-
Notes podcast.
If the guy that sat in the back row wrote Cliff's Notes, if Cliff was in your class, because that's what Wikipedia is, it's like you could do it too. You can write Cliff's Wikipedia too.
That's
if you want
right.
to.
That's right. Okay. So Ida Bell Wells was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi on July 16th, 1862. She's the first of 6 children to James and Lizzie Wells. Ida's born into slavery, but, and you know, the Wells family as well as the rest of the slaves in the Confederate States, when the Emancipation Proclamation was declared about 6 months after Ida's birth, the Wells family were decreed free, and that's on January 1st, 1863. So after emancipation, Ida's parents were super active in the Reconstruction movement. Her father, James, became a trustee of the historically Black liberal arts college, Shaw College, which is now Rust College in Holly Springs. Huh?
Say the name of the college, sorry.
Rust College.
R-U-S-T?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was known for his involvement in politics, as was her mother. They were both really, active in politics. And her father founded a successful carpentry business in Holly Springs in 1867. So they were, this incredible family. And it was at Shaw University that they sent Ida to receive her early schooling. So, but at the age of 16, she had to drop out because both of her parents and her infant sibling died of yellow fever within like a day.
Oh no.
Fucking your parents are dead and you're 16 and one of your younger siblings is dead too within a day. That's how insane it was. And so all her siblings were going to be broken up and, moved to different family members. And she's like, no fucking way. They're staying with me. So she drops out of school, finds work as a teacher in a Black elementary school in Holly Springs. She told them she was 18 and actually was 16. Can I just say that's how I got my nipple pierced? So imagine that's white privilege right there, that I was like, I lied about being 18 so I could get my nipple pierced. And she's like, I lied about being 18 so I could get a career as a teacher and raise my siblings.
And keep my family together.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So, but then Ida's grandmother, who was helping raise the kids, the other siblings, died from a stroke. So eventually Wells moves with her two youngest sisters to Memphis in 1883. So in Memphis, Ida continued to teach, and then during the summertime, she continued her education. And then an incident happened when she was 21 years old that was kind of a catalyst for her activism. So on May 4th, 1884, she's 21, and she's on a train, and she buys a first-class ticket to get in the women's train area because you can't smoke in there. She doesn't want to be around these like foul, smoking dudes. And the train conductor, it's with the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, comes over to her and is like, you need to give up your seat and go back out and move to the smoking car. That's where you're Black. You can't be in the ladies' car. And she's like, fuck this shit. I bought my ticket. I'm not leaving. And the conductor, grabs her to throw her out. She bites him.
Yeah.
Amen. And then she's forcefully dragged out of the car. She hires a lawyer. She sues the Chesapeake, Ohio and Southwestern Railroad Company for discrimination. She wins the case in the state, and then it's sent up higher and it's overturned. So, but this is something that, of course, hits her in her soul. So then she writes a newspaper article about it for The Living Way, which is a Black church weekly. She writes about her treatment on the train and how wrong it was, and she gets kind of publicity in Memphis. So she continues teaching elementary school, but she starts writing more and more and becomes a journalist and a writer. And she's offered an editorial position for the Evening Star in Washington, D.C., and she also begins writing weekly articles for The Living Way newspaper. So under her pen name, Iola, she writes articles attacking Jim Crow policies. And in 1889, at 27 years old, Ida becomes the editor and co-owner of the Free Speech and Headlight, a Black-owned newspaper established by the Reverend Taylor Nightingale at 27 years old.
And co-owner as a Black woman.
That's right.
Did you say 1889?
1889, 27 years old, along with J.L. Fleming. She's just like, here we go. Let's fucking do this.
Let's do it.
In 1891, Ida, so she's dismissed from her teaching post by the Memphis Board of Education because of her articles, because she criticizes schools being segregated and the conditions in the Black schools. She argues that segregation means that, Black children are not getting a fair education and not getting, the type of education they would if schools weren't segregated.
Yeah.
So she gets kicked out. So they're like, well, then you can't be a teacher anymore. Goodbye. Yeah. So she is like, fuck this. I'll concentrate my energy on writing articles for The Living Way and also Free Speech and Headlight. She's quickly well respected and becomes a well accomplished, successful woman. She's respected among the community. She's in the middle class, which is really rare at the time for a woman. She's not married and she's a Black woman. So that doesn't really happen at the time. But she's also, I think a lot of the podcasts I listen to stress this. She's a very normal woman trying to, she's not a savior. She's dating and she's bemoaning in her diaries the dudes she has to date because as soon as they find out how smart she is, they're over it. They just want a wife, Yeah. So the same shit that, every woman fucking faces.
Yeah.
But in 1890s. So
sorry, but it also makes me think she must have been such a good writer, a natural great writer.
Right.
If she was that young, had to drop out of school, and then basically picked it up to go, this happened to me, and it just flowed out of her.
Well, and I think she's writing about the time, which a lot of, there was probably so few people who had the privilege to do that, to write about what was going on in the Black community at the time and to Black people, that her having the balls to fucking do that, just, and having passion. And when you read her stuff, it's clear she has passion.
Yeah.
That you just don't want to stop reading her stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then the big turning point in her life happens in 1892. When a close friend of hers, she's like best friends with this couple. She's the godmother of their youngest child. It's a Black man named Thomas Moss. He's lynched, which, by the way, lynch doesn't mean hanged. Lynch means killed by a mob because of race. So Thomas Moss, he's a family man. He's respected in the community as well. And he delivered mail by day, but he's also part owner of the People's Grocery Store in South Memphis. It's in a neighborhood called The Curve. And it's kind of this mixed race neighborhood. And of course, right across or right down the road from the People's Grocery Store owned by Black people is the white dude's grocery store. And so that's owned by a man named William Barrett. And it's just, there's like a fight that breaks out, but, between these two kids in front of his store, and it turns into this whole fucking melee and people are fighting. And it's like, part of her point is it doesn't matter what started it, but this is the excuse. So, there is, on March 3rd, 1892, an angry white mob that includes the local sheriff's office, because of course, they're part of this group.
Right.
And they come along, and Thomas Moss, along with two other workers from the People's Grocer, Calvin McDowell and Will Stewart, are arrested and jailed. And around 2:30 that morning, while they're in jail, 75 white men wearing black masks take the 3 Black men from their jail cells at the Shelby County Jail, take them to a rail yard outside of town, and shoots all 3 men dead with a shotgun in a horrific fashion that's reported in the newspaper. So, with so many details that it's clear the newspaper man was there.
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus,
that kind of situation.
Okay.
And so Ida finds out about one of her closest, dearest friends being murdered in this way. She's devastated, and she basically becomes an investigative journalist back in the fucking 1890s.
Yes.
She, and puts her own life at risk by spending 2 months traveling around the South. And she is interviewing people who have had loved ones lynched, who have, seen lynchings happen, who their lives have been torn apart by it. And she just gathers as much information as she can. And on October 26th, 1892, she publishes her research in a pamphlet titled Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in All Its Phases. And she comes to this conclusion and has this stance that it's, from what I can tell, it's kind of a new argument, which is that what's not being addressed is that white Southerners are using the excuse of sexual violence by Black men towards white women as an excuse to lynch Black men, but the real reason behind it is that it's Black economic progress. So she's just she calls bullshit that, this Black man was flirting with this white woman, or they're secretly dating, or, he made lewd comments at her. That's a fucking excuse because it makes people who think they're not racist say, well, he deserved it. He shouldn't have done that. When really it's because you opened a competing grocery store across the street from my grocery store. It's because you've become middle class. It's because because, Emancipation Proclamation happened and we're fucking pissed about it. And so we're going to think of any excuse
to go back to those days.
Right. That allows us to murder you, because without a fucking trial, without any, with accusations being just lobbed at anyone, it's just, she calls bullshit on it, essentially.
Yeah.
So, of course, her pamphlet is incredibly controversial. A mob storms the Memphis office of her paper, the Free Speech and Headlight. They destroy everything, the printing press, the whole fucking building. But fortunately, Ida was out of town at the time, and so she's unharmed, but she's warned that she could be killed if she ever returns to Memphis. So she's like, good riddance, goodbye, fucking later days, goodbye.
Yeah.
And she vows never to go back to Memphis again. So instead, she relocates to Chicago, where she continued to distribute her pamphlet. And in 1895, she follows up with a more deeply researched and detailed pamphlet. And it's a 100-page pamphlet called The Red Record, which is famous. And in it, she described lynchings in the United States since the Emancipation Proclamation. And it covers Black people's struggles in the South since the Civil War. And, she's in Chicago now. So it's, being told to people who can be sympathetic to what she's arguing. So the Red Record explored the high rates of lynching in the United States, which is at its peak from 1880 to 1930. She says that during Reconstruction, most Americans outside the South didn't realize, how much violence was going on against Black people in the South. And she urges Black people in these high risk areas to get the fuck out of town to save their families. Mm-hmm. She again connects lynching to sexual violence and shows how this myth that's perpetrated of this Black man's lust for white women is being used as an excuse to murder Black men.
That's what happened for the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Exactly.
The boy, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's, yeah.
Right.
So many of those stories. It's crazy.
And it's just a fucking excuse because you don't want Black people to succeed.
Right.
So she includes pages of graphic accounts about specific lynchings, and she shows that lynching is a tool of white supremacy to prevent social advancement of Black people. So the Red Record has far-reaching influence, and so both of her pamphlets, Southern Horrors and the Red Record, the Northerners are horrified by what they read, and they didn't really know, supposedly, about these lynchings, and they kind of believed what they had heard out of the South, which is that, this person deserved it, and it was, what's it called? Vigilante
retaliation.
Retaliation and vigilante justice, which she's trying to tell everyone it's not. So, she starts getting really involved in civil rights. She leads the opposition against the ban. At the 1893 World Exposition, there's a ban against African American exhibitors, and she leads the opposition against that. And then she starts doing speaking tours in Britain and to campaign against lynching. And they're like sympathetic, and they're like, yeah, fuck this shit. What's going on in your fucking crazy country, like they are right now. And they're shocked by the reports of lynching in America already. In 1894, before she leaves the U.S. for her second visit to Great Britain, William Penn Nixon, who's the editor of the Daily Inter-Ocean, which is a Republican newspaper in Chicago, which, by the way, Republican doesn't mean the same thing then as it means now. It's kind of switched. It's the opposite. It was the only major white paper that persistently denounced lynching. And she tells Nixon about her planned tour, and he asked her to write for the newspaper while she's in England, like an account of what's going on. So she becomes the first African-American woman to be a paid correspondent for a mainstream white newspaper.
Wow.
So she tours England, Scotland, and Wales for 2 months, addresses audience of thousands. There's these rallies among the British, and she gained extensive recognition and credibility and an international audience of white supporters of her cause. So back home in Chicago, she marries a prominent attorney, civil rights activist, and journalist named Ferdinand Barnett in 1895. And from then on, she's known as Ida B. Wells Barnett. But I fucking love this. And in one of the podcasts I listened to, they point out how so many Black women back then hyphenated their names, which is so it's so common these days. But back then, it's like, no, she was already this, she was not going to just change her last name. She had done so much good and so much work, and she was a known, journalist, that she just hyphenated it and added his last name. And fucking kudos on him, because it sounds like he was like championing his wife as a badass who could go out and do her own shit and didn't have to just have kids and stay home.
He must have been into it. I mean, that's like, it's a great reminder that type of man also exists.
Exactly.
Where it's like, yeah, I want you to be this badass. That's part of why I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
It's the coolest.
And it seems like she waited to get married till she found that person, which is so incredible. He had founded the Chicago Conservator. It's the first Black newspaper in Chicago in 1878. And so she began writing for the paper and later acquired a partial ownership of it and assumed the role of editor there. And they had, Barnett had 2 children from a previous marriage, and then together they had 4 more children, Charles, Herman, Ida, and Alfreda. So after brutal assaults on the Black community in Springfield, Illinois in 1908, which is a whole nother fucking conversation, Ida is like, we have to take action. So the following year, she attends a special conference for the organization that would later become known as the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and is considered a founding member. But even to other activists and other founding members of the NAACP, our fucking Ida is a little too much of a spitfire, and she's a little like, this is taking too long. You're not organized enough. And she's like a bit of a, like, how can I say this?
She wasn't going to wait around for permission to do it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
She definitely had that attitude.
I mean, that's the problem with politics too. As a lot of times it's like, we have to go in and then you have to kind of assimilate and make sure that everybody quote unquote likes you.
Right.
So that you agree and that you get support. But oftentimes I watched a whole thing on Twitter this morning about this, where it's like, and that's how oftentimes through politics that Black movements get stalled out because they're being told, if you just wait a little longer. And that happened with the abolitionists, where in the beginning they were saying, we'll get rid of slavery, but slowly and over. And I just watched this video this morning. So it's on my Twitter page. I retweeted it. It's a brilliant woman. Her name's Brittany Cooper, and she is Dr. Brittany Cooper. She's a PhD. Tracy Clayton is the person who tweeted it originally. I was just retweeting hers. Hi, Tracy. And it's such a good thing, but I never thought of that, where it's like, they were like, we'll get rid of slavery, but can you just work 10 more years? And then we'll do it slowly so no one gets upset. And they were like, no, do it now.
It's
free
the thing
everybody
where, like,
now.
Everything, you have these powerful people and you have these powerful ideas, and by the time it gets through this fucking system, it's all watered down and it's all sludge, and like, we should be listening at point A of the people who are yelling about it and not being fucking polite and not being, conservative about their views.
Right. And don't let people, pat you on the head and let you know that, oh, we're your good friend, we're going to help you out, and then never do it.
Yeah. Or we have our agenda first. And once that's concluded. So in 1909, Ida B. Wells is the most prominent anti-lynching campaigner in the United States. And among other accomplishments, she's created the first African-American kindergarten in her community. She's passionate about women's rights and suffrage as well. And she's a spokeswoman and an advocate for women being successful in the workplace and having equal opportunities and creating a name for themselves. So this is all during the fucking, suffrage movement as well. And she becomes part of that.
Wow.
So in the years following, she focuses her work on Black women's suffrage. And along with her white colleague, Belle Squire, they organized the Alpha Suffrage Club in Chicago in 1913. And it's one of the most important Black suffrage organizations in Chicago. And it's founded as a way to further voting rights for all women, and to teach Black women how to engage in civic matters and to work to elect African Americans to city offices. So, okay. So they're working on the Alpha Club, and at the same time, the National American Women's Suffrage Association is organizing a suffrage parade in Washington, D.C. They're the big national fucking, Susan B. Anthony, everyone's on this fucking, who was actually a friend of hers, but So right before the inauguration of Woodrow Wilson in 1913, they're planning this big parade, and suffragists from across the country gather to demand universal suffrage. And Ida was, of course, planning on attending with her Alpha Suffrage Club. And the head of the Illinois delegation told Ida and her delegates that they wanted to keep the delegation entirely white. So they were like, all right, well, we're doing this whole thing. It's all for suffragists. We're supporting each other. And the African-American suffragists need to go to the back of the parade. And Wells is like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to fucking do that. And so she waits with the spectators in the crowd for the parade to start. And as the white delegation from Chicago walks by, she fucking slips under and is in line with them. And she's like, what's up, motherfuckers? I'm here and you're here partly because I'm here too. So I'm with you.
Yes.
And you're not sending me to the back. That's fucking ridiculous. Badass.
So awesome.
Yeah. Throughout the 1920s, she continues to fight and support causes for African Americans, including the right to vote, which she didn't even get herself until she was in her 50s. And in 1930, she unsuccessfully sought elective office, and when she ran as an independent for a seat in the Illinois Senate, but she doesn't make it. Ida Wells dies of kidney failure in Chicago on March 25th, 1931, at the age of just 68. And she had begun writing her autobiography, but never finished it. And so instead, it was edited and published by her daughter, Alfreda Barnett Duster, in 1970. It's called Crusade for Justice, the autobiography of Ida B. Wells. And then she left behind this heroic legacy of social and political activism. And since her death, numerous awards have been established in her name, and the Ida B. Wells Memorial Foundation and the Ida B. Wells Museum have been established to protect, preserve, and promote her legacy. And this past month, in May of 2020, Ida B. Wells Barnett was posthumously awarded a Pulitzer Prize.
No,
yeah,
I can't.
The highest award given in print journalism. She got a special citation for outstanding and courageous reporting.
Fuck yeah.
How amazing is that?
It's about time.
It's fucking right. A month ago. In 2019, Congress Parkway in Chicago, I didn't fucking know this, was renamed Ida B. Wells Drive. Congress Parkway.
Wow.
Is renamed Ida B. Wells Drive, and the home that she and her family lived in was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1974 and a Chicago landmark in 1995. And her great-granddaughter, Michelle Duster, who find her on Twitter, she's awesome as well, has published 2 collections of Ida's original works, Ida in Her Own Voice and Ida from Abroad. And she recently said about her great-grandmother, quote, the only thing she really had was the truth. And she used journalism as a tool to not just report what was going on, but she used her skill as a journalist to the best of her ability to impact social change. And that is just a snippet of the incredible story of Ida B. Wells.
Wow. That was great.
Thank you.
Great job.
I mean, I'm ashamed to say that this isn't someone I really knew about. There are these incredible people doing incredible things with no resources. They just decide to do them because they have to, and it's their calling. And despite, their parents dying, despite, having to drop out of high school. And in a lot of these podcasts I listen to, they talk about how, don't make her this savior, because then it makes people who are just normal, everyday people think that they can't add anything and they can't contribute anything, when really it's people who are fucking, normal and use their skills like writing to do incredible things and just don't fucking give up. They just don't give up. Even when their entire business is burned to the ground, they move somewhere where they'll be listened to and start over. It's just, she's an incredible woman.
Yeah.
If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook or just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about.
It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audio Book Club, hosted by Cal Penn.
Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now.
If you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start.
Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Goodbye. The best time to think about home security is before you need it.
That's exactly why they're Simply Safe.
Traditional home security only alerts you after a break-in has already happened, and that's too late. Simply Safe is changing that.
Simply Safe's US-based live agents identify threats on your property and help deter them so intruders never get to your house.
The system is customizable so you can build one that fits your home and your specific needs.
The 24/7 professional monitoring is effective and affordable and won't lock you into a long-term contract.
I think that's what's so scary for so many people is that long-term contract. And like, what if it turns out you don't like it or need it, but they don't have that because they know you'll like it and you'll know that you need it and feel so much safer when you have it. Like at this point in my life, I would never go without a security system on my house. I just feel safer with actually having Simply Safe around.
There's a whole staff at Simply Safe that's waiting to talk to you and help you out. Right now, you can get 50% off your new system by visiting simplysafe.com/MFM.
That's half off at simplysafe.com/MFM.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Goodbye.
Vacation planning should feel like a breeze, not a deep dive into countless travel sites searching for the best deal.
With Cheap Caribbean's Budget Beach Finder, you can search every destination and every date all in one search.
You'll save time and money with the Budget Beach Finder.
Say goodbye to endless scrolling and tab hopping and hello to Budget Beach Bliss at your fingertips.
Go to cheapcaribbean.com to try out the Budget Beach Finder and see just how stress-free vacation planning should be.
Goodbye.
That was amazing, Georgia. That was, it's embarrassing as a 50-year-old woman to be learning about stuff like this, but better now, better late than never. And so inspiring. So inspiring.
Yeah.
Oh, there was also, my therapist also said a thing I really liked. There's a writer named Rebecca Solnit, and she's saying in times like this, when you feel lost and you're not sure what to do next, instead of if you look forward and there's nothing that you can see, there's not a path forward, then look back. See what people did in the past, figure out what aligns with your values, and then take the next right step.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I know. Like, we just have to be helpers. We just can't. We know we've misstepped and said fucked up shit and done things incorrectly and all those things where it's just like, and how do you do it now at this crucial time better? At this time, very dire. And
well,
so it's like,
before we thought that intentions were all that mattered. Good intentions were all that mattered. And now we're learning that intentions are bullshit. You have to fucking walk the walk.
it's action. At this point where we are now, it's about action.
That's right.
Well, and so I was worried about this because I picked this story to do because June is Gay Pride Month.
Yeah.
So I picked the Stonewall uprising.
Hell yeah. Fucking yeah.
And also because when I picked this, which was like 6 days ago, it was like, oh yeah, uprising and protest. That's cool. That was before the fucking National Guard got called in. Whereas, the vibe changed. But what's interesting is then going through it and reading it, all these things are connected. This is very much connected to the civil rights movement of the earlier in the 60s. And that it was kind of fascinating to actually discover that as I was reading through. So just to cite some sources here, history.com saved my life on this one. I swear to God, that website. Yeah. Like if you are slightly unsure about anything that has happened in the past, history.com is your place to go.
That's right.
Information, dates, names, accuracy,
documentaries, everything,
all about it. Yeah, they know their stuff. But you can bring up a very easy to consume kind of like a short article that just gives you everything you need to know. It's really well put together. Thank you, history.com. There's also great articles in Out Magazine, pinknews.co.uk. There's this great article in The Atlantic called An Amazing 1969 Account of the Stonewall Uprising by a writer named Geraint against Frank Ruda. And that was from 2013. That's incredible. The detail in it is incredible. So we can't really talk about the Stonewall uprising until we talk about the now historic event that took place 9 years before, the 1960 Woolworths lunch counter sit-in by the Greensboro Four. So this basically, and for some people, this is, just a history refresher. And for some people, this is new information. So we'll just be real basic about it. This was basically a sit-in that was organized by 4 Black college students named Ezell Blair Jr., David Richmond, Franklin McCain, and Joseph McNeil. And they would later go on to say that it was modeled after what they saw Gandhi doing in India with the British colonialism. But the reason that they took the action was because 5 years earlier, 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was murdered in Money, Mississippi for allegedly flirting with a white woman who was a cashier at the store where he was buying bubble gum. So relatives of this woman heard that a 14-year-old Black boy had flirted with her,
right.
went to the family member's house. He was actually from Chicago. He had just come down to Mississippi to stay with some family, and they kidnapped him out of the house and beat him to death. 14-year-old boy, and he looks like a baby. The pictures of him, he looks like he's 10. His murderers were arrested, tried, and then acquitted by an all-white male jury after 67 minutes of deliberation. And then a year later, those same men that were acquitted, because they were protected by double jeopardy, confessed to the crimes in an article for Look magazine, and they were paid $4,000 for the story. So
Wait, hold on. Let's let that sink in. That's fucking insane.
It's insane. And then later on, the white woman who was that clerk said he never, because one of the rumors, it was he flirted with her and he touched her hand. And she later, in like 2018 or 2017, she later said right before she died, he never touched me. And whatever he did, that he did not deserve what he got. But of course,
I'd like to retract saying that it's insane, because that wasn't insane for the times. It was
not insane
for the times, and how much has changed, really.
I mean, and yeah. So, and that's kind of the point, is like, if we don't talk about these stories and if we don't know these stories already, then we can't understand what people are so infuriated about.
Right.
So the egregiousness of this, because this happened in 1955. It wasn't the late 1800s. Yeah. It wasn't even 1930. It was 1955. So this was a tipping point for lots and lots of, especially young Black people in the South. So on February 1st, 1960, the Greensboro Four went to their local Woolworths, which was segregated. It was a whites-only lunch counter, and they sat down and they tried to order. They, of course, refused service because they were Black. So they just then sat there peacefully and refused to leave. The police were called, but they actually couldn't really arrest them because they weren't disturbing the peace. They were just sitting there. And also because these 4 men were smart enough to be in cahoots with a white business owner who was helping them out, who knew they were going to do this. Mm-hmm. And that white business owner, the second he knew that they were in there doing it, called the press. So the press showed up to report what was happening. Thus keeping everyone honest. Yeah. Thus making sure that the police knew that this was going to be reported as it happened.
Yeah. If you see people getting pissed off that, that journalists are being fucking shot with rubber bullets and gassed and fucking arrested, it's because they're not supposed to be. That's just not how it works.
And also what a lot of people are, I've seen this retweeted a ton of times, that one of the checkpoints of knowing an authoritarian regime is taking over is they vilifying the press and trying to get rid of the press. Because the press, for as much as they, we can talk about what the problems in the media, but essentially they're there to keep people honest. They're there to tell the truth of what's happening. Right. And to make sure that people understand the truth of what's happening. And the whole assault on the the media with this fake news bullshit of this administration has just made people go, well, I don't have to believe what I'm reading, and therefore I choose not to, and therefore I get to live in this other fantasy world.
Right.
And now there's stormtroopers on the fucking Lincoln Memorial. Okay. So what a brilliant move that was by these 4 men to go make sure the press is there. Okay. So they stay there all night. Woolworths closes, they leave, they go back the next day. There's more people at this sit-in. And 4 days later, in addition to the Greensboro 4, the original 4 protesters, 300 people are sitting at this Woolworths asking to be served. And, so at this point now, it's become national news. In just that short amount of time, they're saying something is happening here. And there were people, like, at this point, a lot of the people who participated in this protest were arrested for disorderly conduct, trespassing, and disturbing the peace, because this was such a defiant act, just simply sitting. And when they're being told to leave, or you can't be in here, I'm sure abused horribly, verbally, they just didn't do it. It was just that simple act of defiance of, I'm not getting up from here. And so people were definitely arrested. But by this time, it was national news. It was on TV, which then sparked,
which was new at the time too, to be actually witnessing this stuff on TV. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like every family having a TV in their household it was kind of a new thing.
Yes, for sure. And then that it isn't, like we were saying before, people can't, they're just sitting there. So you can't argue they're asking for it. They did something. All they're saying is this shouldn't be whites only. Segregation and these Jim Crow laws we need to get rid of them. They're so old, and it's so, it's basically killing this country. It's not how America should be. So at that point, it sparks a trend of sit-ins in college towns across the South. So it's not just Greensboro. It's now across the South. And by the end of the summer of 1960, not only that Woolworths, but many other segregated businesses across the South become integrated. And that is essentially the kickoff of the civil rights movement on the national stage. And it's because of those 4 men who basically had the guts to sit there quietly and just keep showing up. So 6 years later, on April 21st, 1966, inspired by the Greensboro 4, 3 members of a group called the Mattachine Society, which is one of the earliest gay rights organizations in America. And there are 3 guys named Andy Wickler, Dick Leitch, and Craig Rodwell. They stage what they call a sip-in. Nice play on words.
Love it.
So in the 60s, if you were gay, you could actually be charged with being quote unquote disorderly just for being served alcohol in a bar. So that meant that it was legal to deny service to anyone that the bartender or anyone thought was gay. And the cops could arrest anyone at a bar if they suspected that they were gay. Or, to use the word that was used at the time, a transvestite. That's what people called themselves back then. So that word comes up a little bit, which now is problematic, but it was actually the parlance of the time. So these 3 guys, Andy Wickler, Dick Leitch, and Craig Rodwell, they decide they're going to go into bars in Greenwich Village and ask to be served drinks, and then and basically do the same thing of like get denied. And then, they actually went to 2 bars first that served them because they didn't seem overtly gay.
Right.
To those bartenders. And then they got to Julius, so they had to leave because they were like, nope, that sip-in didn't work. They finally get to Julius's bar in Greenwich Village, and they tell the bartender they're gay and they would like to order some drinks. The bartender says, you can't, get out. In part because Julius's 3 days before had been raided. So they're like, we don't want any trouble. The cops are just in here. So basically, now these 3 guys have proof that they're being discriminated against, and now they can take action against the state liquor authority. And now they can actually take this to the courts. And when they do, there's a court case that ultimately makes this type of disorderly charge against gay people illegal. So they couldn't be arrested simply for drinking in a bar anymore.
Okay.
And it's interesting, like, if you're interested in this, look into it, because some of those laws were started because the mayor of New York City at the time, they had the World's Fair was in 1964, and they tried to do a sweep of the city and get rid of all overtly gay, like, people, bars, gathering places, like, because all the tourists were going to come in, and God forbid.
Right. Real quick, did you watch A Secret Love on Netflix?
No, I haven't heard of it.
It's really good. It's a documentary about these two women. They're lesbians and their relationship, but it talks a lot about their only friends back at the time were other gay couples in the 60s and 70s, because you were not allowed to go to bars. So they would just like hang out at their houses and have parties. But it's a really good documentary, A Secret Love.
Secret Love?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. But as we all know, just because you change the law, that does not mean you change society or the way society decides to look at people who are marginalized. So despite this little bit of progress, gay, transgender, and other queer people still have almost nowhere they can go and just to overtly and out be themselves in a safe environment, with the exception of like a handful of gay bars in Greenwich Village, which is where a ton of queer people lived at the time in the city. So the gay bars that people knew were gay bars operate very discreetly because New York City refused to grant, or New York State, refused to grant liquor license to gay bars. So basically they're trying to get rid of gay bars by making the operation itself illegal so that the police can justify raiding these bars and arresting queer people. But even still, these bars, they serve as safe havens for the surrounding gay and queer communities. So, most notable of these bars is the Stonewall Inn at 51 and 53 Christopher Street. So, and this is fascinating to me, 3 members of the Genovese mafia crime family buy the building in 1966, and it had been a straight restaurant and nightclub, and they change it into a gay one.
Whoa.
Because they know that there's money to be made in illegal gay bars where they're paying off the cops and everything is like under the table.
Totally.
Basically. So to keep a low overhead, the building is bare bones. Walls are painted black. They're lined with colored lights. There's no running water behind the bar. Plumbing in the bathrooms constantly backs up. When customers get to the front door, there's a bouncer that looks at them through a peephole. And the only people allowed inside are people who are overtly, it says visibly gay.
Wow.
Visibly gay. For example, like, men who are dressed femme, or people who the bouncer already knows.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a private club in that way. It costs $3 to get in, and then that is also worth 2 drink tickets once you get inside.
Nice.
And the main draw of the Stonewall Inn is that they allow dancing in addition to drinking, which other gay bars did not allow.
Because it's men dancing together or women dancing together, which is overtly gay.
Too overt.
Right.
Exactly. Which is also a thing that later on, and I won't get too into it because it's very interesting, but I don't know enough about it to talk about. But essentially, there is division once gay rights and that movement start up. There's lots of division within of how you're supposed to behave.
Right.
Which is, expected and common, but it's really interesting. So it's like, we just want to be accepted, so act like this.
Yeah.
And then there's other groups that are going, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Which I personally love. Okay, so I always love those people the most. So the other draw for Stonewall is that it welcomes queer people of all races and even underage queer kids, because it's so common back then. If people's families found out they were gay, they'd just get kicked out of the house. Right. And they literally lived on the streets in New York City. Most of them would go to the big city thinking they would be accepted there. And, so that was a big part of it too. Homeless gay kids, which is, still a big, issue today. But, especially back then when it was like, it was unthinkable.
Right.
And parents felt very justified in just cutting their child off.
Crazy.
So it's actually an even mix at the Stonewall, and it's an even mix of white, black, and brown. people ranging in ages from late teens to mid 30s. And of course, for the homeless youth with nowhere else to go, and for other queer people who have been cast aside by all the people that are supposed to love them, the Stonewall becomes a home for a lot of these people, a true home, not a second home, their only home. And other than that, they live on the streets. It's a refuge. It's a beautiful line. Jay wrote this. It serves as a refuge from the world that refuses to acknowledge their humanity.
Oh.
So,
Jay.
Jay, good job. One such patron of the Stonewall Inn is a drag queen, a transgender woman named Marsha P. Johnson. Okay. So Marsha P. Johnson was born in 1945 in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And she starts wearing dresses when she's 5 years old, which made me laugh so hard. It makes me think of my beautiful friend, Dave Messmer, who he has pictures of himself wearing his sister's slip. This picture of him in a slip is what, and he used to tell me about it and go, my slip. Cause he would wear it constantly.
Wow.
And like his mom would be like, hey, don't you want to take the slip off? We're going to the store. And he's like, I have to wear my slip.
Yay.
And it's like, it's the best. It's that thing of like, if you have any question about nature versus nurture, you need to see this picture and Dave and his slip. It's the realness. It's the true realness. Okay. So anyway, when Marsha finally does graduate from high school, she gets out of Elizabeth, New Jersey, runs off to New York City with just a bag of clothes and $15.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She gets by doing sex work, barely managing to survive on the streets, but she gets to be herself finally for the first time, wearing dresses, loud colors, flowers and fruit and Christmas lights in her hair.
Fruit and Christmas lights.
Legend. Early legend. Marsha P. Johnson. So when people ask her what the P in her name stands for, she always says, pay it no mind. So genius. So she's met, of course, with tons of violence, outrage from just the general public. But when she's in places like Stonewall, she finds her chosen family, other queens and queers and gays who accept her for who she is. And she's an incredibly open, optimistic, friendly person if you're friendly to her. And she maintains her Christian religion. She's often seen praying for her friends at local churches. And this killed me. This quote, she says, Jesus, quote, is the only man I could really trust. He listened to me and he never laughed at me. Yeah. And some people even call her Saint Marsha because she's so generous and so lovely. Now, so someone who benefits from Marsha's generosity is a young Latinx queen named Sylvia Rivera. So Sylvia's father left her family when she was a baby, and then her mother committed suicide when she was 3. As a kid, she lived with her grandmother, but then when she would dress up in her grandmother's clothes and makeup, her grandmother would beat her. So when she turns 11, she runs away and lives on the streets of New York City. Yeah. Horrifying, but it's such a sadly common story.
Yeah.
She meets Marsha in 1963 while she's also working as a sex worker. She said, quote, Marsha was like a mother to me. And she says that Marsha always looked out for her, gave her a semblance of stability, and loved her like no one else ever had. So, okay. So those are we need to meet those two key players. And now we go to the night of Saturday, June 28th, 1969. That night, there's about 200 people at the Stonewall Inn, partying, dancing, doing their thing. It's one of the only places that they can go to drink and dance and just be their fabulous selves freely. This bar does not have a liquor license. As I said, they're controlled by the Genovese crime family.
Love it.
So
Hate
those
it.
guys...
Love it.
I just love it. Because, you can pretend that means that they are doing it because they support and love gay people, which is not true. But so basically they pay off the local cops and to stay in business. So purely for appearances, the cops have to raid the bar every once in a while to make it look like it's all above board. And normally what happens is... one of the mobsters gives the bar owners a heads up.
Right. I feel like a Saturday night wouldn't be a normal time to do it either.
I don't know. Well, no, I mean, not according to this story, because normally they get the heads up that the cops are coming, and then they hide the booze and they tell all the customers. So anybody that has to leave because they're not out or they're at risk in some way can run. Well, this time there's no warning. So around 1:20 in the morning, 4 undercover police and 4 cops in uniform raid the Stonewall Inn. And even though everyone's surprised, raids are so common back then that the employees and the customers kind of know the drill. So basically, they have to line up while the cop checks everybody's ID. And then anyone that's, quote, dressed like a woman is taken to the bathroom and checked to, quote, verify their sex.
No.
Yeah. So demeaning, so gross. So, and then basically anyone who is wearing women's clothing but doesn't have female genitalia is arrested.
Jesus. There's video of them being like herded into the paddy wagon too, right? Outside of like...
I don't know if there's video. I've definitely seen pictures.
Yeah.
There's amazing pictures because, well, yeah. So, and there's a lot of pictures in this, that Atlantic article that I mentioned, that are great because there's some people who are enraged and screaming. But then there's people kind of in the back row that are kind of like laughing and cheering because the thing becomes this event.
Yeah.
You know? So, okay. So this is what happened. So basically this time everyone's fucking sick of it, where it's like these raids happen all the time and they're coming into like their clubhouse, basically, you know, they're the one spot they have. So a lot of the queer patrons just refuse to hand over their IDs or go willingly with these arresting officers to go get quote unquote checked. So in the response to the refusals, the police start, of course, abusing the Stonewall patrons. So they're getting really physical, dragging people away to arrest them. They're frisking customers that they know are lesbians. So they're groping them and molesting them. Right. So tension escalates very quickly. Meanwhile, the police are also confiscating all the booze they can find, which is like 28 cases of beer, 19 bottles of hard liquor. But it's so much that they have to call for a second paddy wagon to come and haul it away, along with these people they're planning to arrest. They release anyone that's not under arrest, and then they force all the arrested patrons to wait. But the people who are released just stand around outside waiting to see what's going to happen because they're not just going to like run, which I really love. So then there's people passing by the bar who notice what's going on and they stop to join the group outside and they see what's happening, that it's this raid and that they're, you know, these cops are getting violent, and it's not the normal, like what they expect with the Stonewall Inn is like they do the quote unquote raid and then they go through the motions and everything's fine because they're paying, you know, they're being paid off to do that. But now all of a sudden it's all different. So the group is not cool with it, obviously. And they start mocking the police. They're doing fake salutes. They're yelling shit at them. They're leaning into the femme behavior. They're doing limp wrists and primping their hair. They're also making fun of the police. They're directly mocking the police in their faces and doing all this really overt shit that normally it's like normally if it was a raid, they're shamed into not, you know, running away, not showing their faces or whatever. Well, the officers start shoving the patrons out of their way and the patrons start pushing back. And this tension starts building. And at one point, they very forcefully throw a butch lesbian named Stormy DeLarvery, and they throw her into the paddy wagon. And as they do, she yells to the crowd, "Why don't you guys do something?" And so they do. And suddenly rocks, bottles, and bricks are being thrown at the police. The police are using excessive force to try to restrain the crowd, but they're completely outnumbered because now the crowd is very quickly grown, and is very quickly involved. Some of the patrons who have been handcuffed that were supposed to be arrested get away. One of the patrons suggests that maybe the cops showed up because the owners hadn't paid them off yet. So another one yells, "Let's pay them off." And they start throwing pennies at the cops.
Oh, fuck.
And part of the group tries to flip the paddy wagon over.
Holy shit.
While other people run around and slash the tires of the cop cars. So there's the officers driving those cop cars jump into them and drive away with flat tires because they know they're outnumbered. the cops that stay grab a bunch of the patrons that are handcuffed and they go back inside the Stonewall and basically barricade themselves in. Now that move itself is one of the reasons things escalated even further because, and I'll read this quote from that Atlantic article about how basically the cops were humiliated because normally they have such a hold over and have such a power over the quote unquote fairies, which is what they were called back in the day. So the idea that all these people who were used to being shamed and hiding their face and, oh my God, I'm being arrested for this and it's so terrible.
Yeah.
Now they're just like, no, fuck you. And the police are so scared they have to run back into the bar.
They're being humiliated for probably the first time. Like, this doesn't happen, especially back then.
They're fucking with the power structure. And that's when the people with the power get scared and mad. So essentially they're not sure how either the crowd or the police inside set the building on fire.
Fuck. We don't know who.
So they're not sure because it could have been the crowd outside to make the police come back out.
Right.
But there's also a theory that the cops inside did it because they were destroying the inside of the Stonewall Inn anyway.
Yeah.
Because they smashed the jukebox. They were doing all kinds of shit inside. So they're like, well, then they probably lit it on fire also. But then the logic of that is like, but they're in there.
Right.
So they don't know for sure. There's also a lot of debate surrounding who threw the first object because a lot of people attribute it to Sylvia Rivera. But she's later quoted saying, quote, I threw the second one. I did not throw the first.
And I'm sticking to that. That's you guys, that's our story from now on. I threw the second one.
I threw the second one. Others say Marsha P. Johnson threw the first brick, but she later goes on record to say she wasn't there until 2 a.m. when the building was already on fire.
Fuck. I love that she shows up fashionably late to a riot.
Yes. She's like, what? Girls, what's going on? So the most important thing is that the uprising at the Stonewall Inn can't be credited to just one person because it really is about the collective effort of this oppressed community, primarily Black and brown, transgender or non-gender conforming people who have been pushed to their limits and have one of the only things they even have in the world taken away from them. And that's what sparks this uprising. So basically everyone there is prepared to defend their home. And especially this is the era of the civil rights movement, the anti-Vietnam War movement, a general counterculture influence. The queer people of New York City are fired up and they've had enough of this shitty treatment. So as the fight rages on, the Tactical Patrol Force, the TPF, which is basically the NYPD's riot control unit, they arrive to fight back against the crowd and free the police that are inside Stonewall. So they form this formation to try to drive the crowd back to get away from the Stonewall Inn. But of course, now this crowd is on fire. And so they're cheering, they're mocking the police. Instead of retreating, they form like a showgirl style kick line.
Shit.
And they start doing a kick line and singing at the cops.
A legit kick line.
Yeah. Bob Kohler, who is a local gay rights activist, was there that night and describes what he witnessed.
Oh my God.
Quote, I had been in enough riots to know the fun was over. The cops were totally humiliated. This never, ever happened. They were angrier than I guess they had ever been because everybody else had rioted, but the fairies were not supposed to riot. No group had ever forced cops to retreat before, so the anger was just enormous.
Yeah.
End quote.
Masculine fragility.
So, furious and embarrassed, the police rush the crowd, pummeling them again with excessive force. By 4 a.m., the streets are mostly cleared, and the Stonewall Inn is destroyed from the inside out. And basically, the cops inside that had been they just ripped everything down. They were just trying to shut the place down for good. Like, there will be nothing left.
Is anyone dead in the fire? Okay.
No. Not that I know of. So 13 people are arrested. Some are hospitalized for their injuries. 4 officers are hurt, but it's minor. The next day, they continue protesting. So supporters go and they spray paint things like drag power and legalize gay bars and we are open on the outside of the burnt out Stonewall Inn. And so now it's Saturday, June 28th, and the Stonewall actually does open, but this time there's no bouncer, there's no peephole. It's people just standing out in the open. And it's thousands of people gathering in the streets around this bar. The crowd stretches out to the surrounding blocks in this neighborhood. Yeah. So the police arrive on the scene and they're met with more opposition. At one point, Marsha P. Johnson climbs a lamppost and drops a bag with a brick in it onto the hood of a cop car. That's probably why she got the credit for throwing the first brick, because that second night, she got up there and fucking went for it. And I think there is a picture of her on that lamppost, if I'm not mistaken. But the battle between queer people and the police continues till 4 a.m. with several more arrests. And in total, the Stonewall uprising lasts 6 days. And it's a mix of peaceful protest, looting, destruction of property, and total freedom of expression.
6 days in that neighborhood.
6 days.
Holy shit.
And obviously, like, if day 2, there's thousands of people, it's like an event.
Wow.
So by the time the uprising settles down, major news outlets have picked up on this story and they've made it clear to anyone who's watching, the queers will have their liberation come hell or high water. And the effects start taking hold immediately. So there's people who once felt hopeless and now they're emboldened. There's gay demonstrations. You see gay couple holding hands out, just out and about, which did not happen before this. People dressing totally out of control, like any way they wanted.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say out of control, but like people actually dressing the way they wanted and without the fear of, if somebody sees me, I can somehow be arrested for disorderly conduct just because I'm dressed like this. So clearly, this community, they're done with being in the closet and toning themselves down to make straight people feel comfortable. In a matter of months, gay and queer newspapers are cropping up around the city. One's called Gay, one's called Come Out with an exclamation point, and one's called Gay Power. And their popularity and readership steadily climbs. Okay, so this is kind of amazing. This is a quote from that article from The Atlantic, an amazing 1969 account of the Stonewall uprising, written by Garant's Frank Ruda. But what's incredible is Dick Leitch, who is one of the 3 guys who did the sip-in.
Yes.
He was planning a trip to London, but he saw what was happening and went down there so he could report on it.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Because he was also a journalist. And
nice.
so he went down. So this is just a portion. There's a big, long part of what he wrote in this article, but I just pulled this portion of it because it's really cool. So this is what Dick Leitch wrote about the Stonewall uprising. Quote, since 1965, the homosexual community of New York has been treated quite well by the city administration, and the police have either reformed or been kept in line by Lindsay and Leary. Now we've walked in the open and know how pleasant it is to have self-respect and to be treated as citizens and human beings. We want to stay in the sunlight from now on. Efforts to force us back in the closet could be disastrous for all concerned. The above, while a true evaluation of the situation, does not explain why the raid on Stonewall caused such a strong reaction. Why the Stonewall and not the sewer or the snake pit, which were other gay bars in the area? Okay. The answer lies, we believe, in the unique nature of the Stonewall. This club was more than a dance bar, more than just a gay gathering place. It catered largely to a group of people who are not welcome in or cannot afford other places of homosexual social gathering. The quote drags and the quote queens, 2 groups which would find a chilly reception or a barred door at most of the other gay bars and clubs, formed the regulars at the Stonewall. To a large extent, the club was for them. Apart from the Gold Bug and the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Those are other bars. Yeah. I love it. Drags and queens had no place but the Stonewall. Another group was even more dependent on the Stonewall, the very young homosexuals and those with no other homes. You've got to be 18 to buy a drink in a bar, and gay life revolved around bars. Where do you go if you are 17 or 16 and gay? The legitimate bars wouldn't let you in the place, and gay restaurants and the streets aren't very sociable. Then too, there are hundreds of young homosexuals in New York who literally have no home. Most of them are between 16 and 25 and came here from other places without jobs, money, or contacts. Many of them are running away from unhappy homes. One boy told us, quote, "My father called me cocksucker so many times I thought it was my name."
Oh, Jesus.
Another said his parents fought so much over which of them made him a homosexual that he left so they could learn to live together. Some got thrown out of school or the service for being gay and couldn't face going home. Some were even thrown out of their homes with only the clothes on their backs by ignorant, intolerant parents who'd rather see their kid dead than homosexual. They came to New York with the clothes on their backs. Some of them hustled or had skills enough to get a job. Others weren't attractive enough to hustle and didn't manage to fall in with people who could help them. Some of them, giddy at the openness of gay life in New York, got caught up in it, and some are on pills and drugs. Some are still wearing the clothes in which they came here a year or more ago. Jobless and without skills, without decent clothes to wear or to a job interview, they live in the streets, panhandling or shoplifting for the price of admission to the Stonewall. That was one advantage to the place. For $3 admission, one could stay inside, out of the winter's cold or the summer heat all night long. Not only was the Stonewall better climactically, but it also saved the kids from spending the night in a doorway or from getting arrested as vagrants. $3 isn't too hard to get panhandling, and nobody hustled drinks in the Stonewall. Once the admission price was paid, one could drink or not as he chose. The Stonewall became home to these kids. When it was raided, they fought for it. That and the fact that they had nothing to lose other than the most tolerant, broad-minded gay place in town explains why the Stonewall riots were begun, led, and spearheaded by queens.
That is amazing.
That was long, but it's so worth it.
Necessary. Yeah.
Because it's Dick Lightshoe. It's like they're basically saying there's a caste system within this community, and you actually went to the one place. You can't take that. You can't take the one thing people have away from them, and then they have nothing to lose.
Never fucking underestimate the underdogs and the fucking discounted and the people who have already struggled their whole fucking lives.
Yeah,
this
they're not scared.
Nothing new. This is nothing new.
They're so brave. Yeah, exactly. They know how to fight.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some members of the gay community, including Marsha P. Johnson, founded the Gay Liberation Front, which was an activist group dedicated to liberating the gay people of America. This group gives way to more groups like it across America and into Canada. And in the immediate aftermath, there are some gays who say they don't agree with what happened at Stonewall. And this is where groups like the Mattachine Society fall apart, because their efforts have always been to show straight people that gay people are, quote, just like them. And so they want gays to fit in with the straights and assimilate to their culture. But queer people involved in Stonewall uprising were saying assimilation plays into the oppressor's hand. Basically, the beautiful thing about this is being able to be your genuine self, full stop, not trying to meet the expectations of anybody else. And that's what transgender activists like Marsha and Sylvia start fighting for, which is the freedom to be yourself, whatever that is. So they make it a point to continue the work in the years following Stonewall. In 1970, Sylvia and Marsha start an organization called Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which supports queer youth in New York City. By 1972, they've pulled together enough money to purchase a house, which they call the Star House, which is the acronym for the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries.
Love it.
And they use this house to house homeless queer youth. And Sylvia and Marsha fund the house through sex work so that the kids who live there don't have to do it themselves.
Oh.
It's beautiful. The STAR organization also jumps into other equal rights and anti-police brutality causes around the city, marching in protests and supporting other marginalized people in any way they can. But as they head into the early 70s, more and more people start to peel themselves away from transgender, gender queer causes. The gay liberation movement starts to think about trans rights as being too difficult to attain. So they separate from activists like Marsha and Sylvia. The thinking was to give gay causes a better chance. Then at the Gay Pride March in 1973, Sylvia tries to make a speech, but is repeatedly blocked by other gay activists. And she eventually grabs the mic and yells, if it wasn't for the drag queens, there would be no gay liberation movement. We're the frontliners. So shortly after that, she attempts suicide, but Marsha finds her and saves her life. So the Stonewall uprising very quickly gives way to the gay rights movement and pride celebrations that now start taking place all around the world. On June 28th, 1970, the queer community in New York City gathers outside of Stonewall for the first annual Christopher Street Liberation Day. They commemorate the Stonewall uprising with a march, and Los Angeles and Chicago follow suit with their own marches. And also San Francisco, that same year, San Francisco has, they have what they call a sit-in. They march down Polk Street and then they have a sit-in themselves. And the next year, Boston, Dallas, Milwaukee, and even Paris, London, West Berlin, and Stockholm all host pride marches of their own. Every year, the number of participating cities grows until we reach the Pride Month celebrations as we know them today. But as we celebrate Pride, it's important to remember that we're able to celebrate this in the first place because Black and brown, trans, genderqueer, and queens like Marsha and Sylvia and more fought for everyone's liberation. And that is a very rudimentary report on the legendary protest that was the Stonewall uprising.
Wow. I did not know those details at all. That is amazing.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, this is there's so much more to know and learn and so many details. But
Cliff Notes.
It's a start, but I mean, I kind of do love it all folds together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brave people out there, and what we're seeing happening right now in front of us has happened before. It doesn't have to be as scary, as it can sometimes feel, because if you look back in the past, there have been people who have been so brave in such insanely oppressive times. And if we can know these stories and talk about those stories, we can steal a little bit of their bravery and take it to now so we can do our work.
And it's really inspiring to see that those brave people have made changes. So what we're going through right now, and the fear and anxiety and stress of it all, and it's so scary, but it's for a cause, and it works. And in the past, it's worked, and that's why it's happening. It's not for nothing.
That's right, and this is about actually having respect for human life. It's not about teaching people a lesson. It's not about being anti this group or anti that group. It's like, you cannot keep on killing Black people with nothing and having nothing happen because of it.
Yeah.
That's what's happening today, but that's also, it has been happening for so long.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, everybody.
Great job. We really want to hear your fucking hoorays from the past week and what's been going on for you and your wins. Please email us at myfavoritemurder@gmail.com or tweet at us or comment on our Instagram, and let us know, how this has affected you.
And what you're doing to help the people that it affects in the real day to day, because that's what's exciting, is watching people really come together.
Right.
Thanks you guys for listening. Stay safe, stay strong, stay sexy,
and don't get murdered.
Goodbye.
Elvis, you want a cookie?
The best time to think about home security is before you need it.
That's exactly why there's Simply Safe.
Traditional home security only alerts you after a break-in has already happened, and that's too late. Simply Safe is changing that.
Simply Safe's US-based live agents identify threats on your property and help deter them so intruders never get to your house.
The system is customizable so you can build one that fits your home and your specific needs.
The 24/7 professional monitoring is effective and affordable and won't lock you into a long-term contract.
I think that's what's so scary for so many people is that long-term contract. And like, what if it turns out you don't like it or need it, but they don't have that because they know you'll like it and you'll know that you need it and feel so much safer when you have it. Like at this point in my life, I would never go without a security system on my house. I just feel safer with actually having Simply Safe around.
There's a whole staff at Simply Safe that's waiting to talk to you and help you out. Right now, you can get 50% off your new system by visiting simplysafe.com/MFM.
That's half off at simplysafe.com/MFM.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Goodbye.
Vacation planning should feel like a breeze, not a deep dive into countless travel sites searching for the best deal.
With Cheap Caribbean's Budget Beach Finder, you can search every destination and every date all in one search.
You'll save time and money with the Budget Beach Finder.
Say goodbye to endless scrolling and tab hopping and hello to Budget Beach Bliss at your fingertips.
Go to cheapcaribbean.com to try out the Budget Beach Finder and see just how stress-free vacation planning should be.
Goodbye. Capture your favorite summer feeling with Pandora Jewelry.
Discover a collection inspired by the sunshine, freedom, and moments that make the season unforgettable.
From sun-kissed metals to personalized pieces ready to be engraved with your summer mantra.
Each design moves with you from beach days to golden nights and every memory in between.
Shop Pandora Jewelry's new summer collection in-store or online at pandora.net and let your summer unfold. Goodbye.